Welcome back to Live With, brought to you by SciTech Nutrition. Visit SciTechNutrition.com. We are here for RX Muscle's Iron Road to the Olympia. And tonight's guest is the 2016 IFBB Arnold Classic Men's Physique Champion, Brandon Hendrickson. Welcome.
Thank you.
Nice title, right?
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That feels really good.
A lot of people, Brandon, don't really know very much about you. I didn't know so much about you until you won this year's Arnold. You kind of snuck up on people. You stole that show. The pre-show favorite, obviously, being Jason Poston. Obviously, George Brown, one of the favorites as well. You snuck in there and you took that victory. That had to be, was that the best victory of your career, would you say?
It was the biggest and best victory of my career, yes. My 4-year career in bodybuilding was awesome. I've always been... Sorry?
Did that be up on the Arnold Classic stage and have your hand raised up in victory? Did you ever envision that?
Yeah, that's actually what motivated me during my prep. It was a 10-week prep for the Arnold Classic. And, every morning I got up for cardio. I envisioned myself for every show, being on that stage, being in first call-outs, dead center, and, being called for first place. So I have that. I tend to call myself a visionary. I have that vision every time, every show.
You haven't been one of these men's physique guys that has done a million shows. You did win the Tampa Pro in 2015, letting people know that you're for real. But you're not on what I call the circuit, where you're doing 15 shows a year like some of these guys are doing. You tend to pick your shows very cautiously. Why is that?
Just because I know from experience and just learning and researching bodybuilding, certain shows they have certain looks. So I make sure it's just like boxing. I wouldn't go, if I'm a lightweight, I wouldn't go into a heavyweight match. So it's the same thing with picking shows. I make sure I pick the right shows where I have a good chance of placing well.
The Arnold is pretty big, so you must have felt that you were ready for the big time, because that was about as big as a show you could pick.
Yeah, I mean, going from the 2015 Tampa Pro, and that's which qualified me for the 2015 Olympia. I placed top 5 in the Olympia, which requalified me for this year. I had the confidence to go into the Arnold knowing that I could do really well.
The Arnold Classic was a little different this year. It wasn't an invite. It was basically like whoever wanted to show up, showed up, the top 45 guys. It was like a cattle call up there. To be honest with you, I don't even know how the judges weeded out the best guys from the guys that weren't so good, because it was very tough. Were you concerned up on that stage that you might get overlooked in that huge lineup?
Yeah, I'm concerned with every show. Every show I go into, I'm concerned with being overlooked. That's part of my experience in bodybuilding. My previous shows before, I feel like I've been overlooked, and which has actually humbled me and motivated me. So going into the Arnold, being there, I knew that there's a chance of me being overlooked, but that I didn't let that, stress me out or stop me from doing anything. I made sure that I had a champion mindset every set, every rep, every cardio session, every meal I had. So
getting into men's physique is always, I always like to ask the guys what attracted you to that division, because usually guys, when they see shows, they're like, I want to bodybuild. I want to be up there. And you got a bodybuilder physique. You could certainly be in bodybuilding if you wanted to. What made you say, you know what, I don't want to go to bodybuilding. Men's physique is where I want to be.
I like to win. And going into bodybuilding this early in my career, I'm as a realist, I don't think I would win with my physique. So I thought that men's physique was more attainable for me to be a champion.
So would you say, and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but would you ever see yourself moving, as your physique starts to evolve into the higher classes, classic physique maybe even bodybuilding at some point? Or do you feel that you have a home here in men's physique?
No, I don't ever limit myself. I'm definitely open to classic bodybuilding, 212, and even open bodybuilding. Obviously, that's going to take some time. But, I've been talking to my coach for the past 2 years about switching over to, the other divisions. So I'm definitely open to, switching over. But my main goal right now is winning the Olympia. Once I win the Olympia, then I'll think about switching over.
Why will Brandon Hendrickson win the Mr. Olympia, the Physique Olympia? Why? What's going to make you better than the next guy out there that's going to make the judges say, I want him as our champion?
I mean, like I did at the Arnold Classic, I brought an undeniable physique. I didn't have a name. I didn't have a huge following. You know, I got there because I worked hard, and that says a lot to me. So going into the Olympia, I'm going to do the same thing plus more. I have the confidence coming from a Arnold Classic win and a top 5 Olympia. I think anything is possible after that. You know, like I said, I didn't have the big following. I won because of I was undeniable. I didn't. I basically gave the judges no choice but to pick me for a win. You know, and that's the same mindset that I'm going to have going into the Olympia.
Who do you see as your main competition there?
Yeah, definitely, probably 2-time champ Jeremy Buendia.
So you've put everyone else behind you.
I mean, I know they all want to win, of course, but from experience, I've beat them. So the only person that I haven't beaten was Sadiq, which is not in. He's not in men's physique anymore, and then Jeremy Buendia.
Okay, that sounds reasonable. Now, when I look at your physique, I see an athlete. I see a guy who plays sports. That's the kind of look I see from you, which I think is really the look that they intended the men's physique division to depict. We talked a little earlier. You mentioned that you were a soccer player for 5 years. You wrestled a little bit. You ran track. You have a terrific time in the 400 meters. You actually look like a 400-meter runner out there. Do you still run to get in shape, or have you stopped that?
I think blood circulation issues in my legs, so when I run, I have a lot of pain. So what I've been doing for my cardio is elliptical, or if I do run, it's usually high hit cardio. You know, I'll do high intensity intervals, but not.
Can you still run the 400 meters, you think?
No, I could probably do 100 meters though.
For those who don't know, 400 meters is a quarter mile, one time around the track. His best time, 49 seconds, which is unbelievable. Let me tell you, that is a truly terrific time. Now, you have an interesting story because you were so good in high school that you actually got some small scholarship offers. You went to college. You went to Southern Illinois, I believe. And you told me earlier you partied a lot there. So you kind of got distracted from the sports angle, huh?
Yeah, unfortunately, it was just the environment that I was around, you know, and I was a free man. I was independent. I wasn't under my parents' household anymore. So I just wanted to live life. And, you know, I got distracted. I don't regret anything. I have no regrets. I'm glad I had the experience because it made me who I am today.
I was going to ask you that because you had this raw. I hate guys like you who have this raw talent. You probably didn't even practice that hard in high school, and you probably still ran that time. When you have all that raw talent, do you say to yourself after school's over, "Man, did I freaking waste this"?
That wasn't really like my thought process. Honestly, after school, I just wanted a job. I just wanted to get paid.
You know, you kind of got a second lease in life, so to speak, with this men's physique because you took those genetics, that great athleticism you had, and you channeled it into the men's physique division. At what point did you get bit by the bug? Everyone always has a story when they said, that's when I knew I wanted to be a bodybuilder. What was your aha moment?
Honestly, when I was 16 years old, I was wrestling. I was in the gym. You know, obviously, I didn't know about the dieting part, but I love to work out. Girls love seeing my abs. I had a six-pack in high school. And so that was part of my motivation. And my best friend, her name is Kiki, 16 years old. I told her I wanted to be a professional bodybuilder in high school. And kind of took those dreams away during college. But then a couple years after college, you know, I was around a couple people that were into bodybuilding. I went to a show and I was immediately inspired.
So you had that vision earlier in your teen years.
Yeah. Well, I was 16. I remember I was in the gym at Streamwood High School.
What kind of reaction have your parents, friends given you when you told them, hey, you know what, I want to be a physique star? I mean, because most people can't relate to that. They don't understand what it is. They don't get it, you know?
Yeah, it was just because my parents weren't aware. My family's foreign. They're from Trinidad and Tobago, the Caribbean. This lifestyle is very new to them. So when I introduced it to them, they didn't know what was going on. They just knew that I like to go to the gym and I ate a lot of chicken.
You're from Darren Charles' neck of the woods over there.
Yeah, that's the homie. Yeah,
there you go. That's funny.
Yeah.
Look, you're going into the Olympia now as one of the favorites. Do you feel any pressure? Do you feel any pressure on you because of that?
The pressure is a little bit different. Coming up in the game, it was more about, man, these guys thought that I was too big. I didn't have the right look. So I felt like I had to prove people wrong. But now the pressure is more because of the support and the love that I'm getting now. I feel like I have to prove people right because now the support that I'm getting, people are believing in me and people are saying that I'm going to win. So now I just want to prove them right.
Is there, I guess you could say, a better way to do what you've done? In other words, a lot of guys, they get off a show and they say, you know what, I got to go back to the drawing board or I got to, formulate a new plan of attack. Are you sticking to what worked for you at the Arnold or have you reformulated and made some changes for this upcoming Olympia?
Yeah, I definitely made some changes. You should always get feedback for the younger guys coming up in the game. Always get feedback from judges.
What was your feedback?
Sorry?
What was the feedback?
Yeah, Steve Weinberger told me you can never be too wide. That was his feedback. So we worked on lats and shoulders this whole prep. Pretty sure I grew about two or 3 inches since the Arnold Classic.
Would you consider yourself a hard trainer? Do you think you give 100% in the gym, or are you a guy that probably can do a little bit more?
I can always do more. It just depends on who I'm with. For example, if I'm training with my coach, Manus Buckle out of Chicago, he makes sure that I'm giving more than 100%. If I'm training by myself, I'll usually give about 80 to 90%. If I'm not satisfied with that training session, I'll usually go back for another session the same day.
That's great. Well, Brandon, we want to just wish you the best of luck up on that Olympia stage. You are the reigning Arnold Classic Champion, which is a huge title. I believe that you will be a huge threat to the throne of Jeremy Buendia come September. And keep it together and keep us updated. And best of luck on the Olympia stage.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity, man. Let's have some fun. Can't wait.
Absolutely. Okay, that'll take us to the end of another episode of Live With, brought to you by SciTech Nutrition. Visit scitechnutrition.com and make sure to follow us on all our RX Muscle Iron Road to the Olympia interview series that will be taking place over the next couple of weeks. I'm Dave Palumbo, and we'll see you in 2 minutes with Iron Rage.